So we've got some breaking news on a story that we've been following closely here. So you'll recall there have been strikes at Amazon facilities this week as we've followed wildcat strikes across the country, and in particular at a warehouse on Staten Island. One of the organizers of that protest, Chris Smalls, was fired by Amazon, certainly appears to be in retaliation for his role in organizing those efforts. We covered the fact that Jay Carney, who's now a senior vice president at Amazon, of course, formerly of the Obama White House, pushed back on the idea that, it was really bad for workers that Chris Smalls was fired, saying that he violated social distancing guidelines. They're weaponizing these health guidelines to fire this worker who's an organizer. Now we're getting even more details about the thinking that went into the decision to fire this worker, Chris Smalls.
Yeah, so this broke from Vice News, excellent report here, and it shows that there's a leaked note from internal Amazon leadership trying to cast this employee, Chris Smalls, as, quote, not smart or articulate. Here's the context, written by Amazon's general counsel, David Zapolsky. He's not smart or articulate, and to the extent the press wants to focus on us versus him, will be in a much stronger PR position than simply explaining for the umpteenth time how we're trying to protect workers. So not only, that's outrageous, number one, to say, but two, you can see how they're trying to manipulate the press into not focusing on what they're doing or not doing necessarily and focusing on strikes, and then firing somebody, trying to elevate him, scapegoat, and being like, make them focus on this guy because we don't think that he'll be as compelling as a person to listen to as we are.
I am so angry about this because on every level, first of all, the amount of racism and classism embodied in this comment. By the way, I've watched interviews with Mr. Smalls, and he is perfectly
he's plenty smart and
articulate. The real idiots here are Amazon. By the way, we reached out to Amazon for comment, and at the time of this recording, they had not responded. Let me get that in there. Are Amazon in thinking that it's going to be good for them to be them versus this worker who, what is he asking for? He's not asking for a lot. He does a very difficult job, and all he's asking is that he and his coworkers are kept safe during this crisis. They had outbreaks of coronavirus in some of these facilities, and he wants to make sure people are protected so that their health and their life and their well-being is taken seriously by the company.
Right.
That is what we're talking about. And there's such idiots to think, just listen to the workers. This is a PR disaster for them, and to think that it's going to be a good look for them to be Amazon versus this worker that they fired for trying to speak up on behalf of his coworkers is just disgusting.
I don't think David's going to look very smart or articulate whenever in a couple of weeks people start getting coronavirus because their Amazon warehouse workers were touching packages that ended up giving their customers coronavirus.
How smart
is that? Not particularly smart. Another thing to highlight here, this is according to Vice, the discussion took place at a daily meeting and included CEO Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos appears to have signed off on this. And there's another thing here, which is that this went all the way up to the very top. Jeff Bezos, Jay Carney, and the Amazon General Counsel getting involved. This wasn't some small-time warehouse deciding to fire this guy. From the very, very top of this company, they made a concerted PR decision to try and scapegoat Mr. Smalls and cast him as not smart or articulate and as irresponsible and potentially illegal. And rather than they literally say, let's make him the entire face of you make him the most interesting part of the story, and if possible, make him the face of the entire union/organizing movement. This is a direct quote according to these notes taken by Vice in this meeting with Jeff Bezos attended. So you really can see how concerted these efforts are and how much they want to try and push off responsibility. And again, this is a time where they're making more money than ever.
Right.
They are hiring 100,000 people. Now is the time to make sure that you protect your employees and your customers and drivers, everybody. We've had UPS drivers on here talking about unsafe conditions. And lo and behold, poll after poll after poll after poll shows that the wealthy are staying home during the work week and the poor have to keep working.
That's right. That's exactly right. And Amazon is famously anti-union, right? It's why I always object to this characterization that these companies are somehow on the left or somehow liberal. They may do some virtue signaling But in terms of their actual treatment of the human beings that work for them, the working class human beings who work for them, there's nothing liberal or progressive about them. And you see this in this action. It also gives you insight into what we covered with Jay Carney. So what happened there? Bernie Sanders had tweeted in support of Mr. Smalls and in support of the workers, of course, very consistent with who he is and what he stands for, what he fights for. And then Jay Carney comes in and tries to attack Bernie for standing up for these workers. Again, now we know, all part of a concerted effort to target Chris Smalls, not only for firing, but also to make him the face of the worker movement. And like I said, I think it's a big mistake because, first of all, Mr. Smalls has handled himself incredibly well and made the moral case incredibly effectively. And if you think it's a good look for your company to be giant, behemoth, multinational, one of the largest companies in the world, trashing this one warehouse worker, like, you have to be insane to think that way. But
Guess
that's
what,
exactly
Amazon?
how they think.
Turns out somebody in your organization was pretty pissed off about what you said, and they leaked it, so everybody knows exactly what we all think of you now. So
there you go.
Perhaps not a smart or articulate decision.
Maybe not. Maybe not. All right, we're going to have more for you after this.